Welcome to another episode of Basketball Recap, where we recap every Arkansas Razorback basketball game after it happens. It's hard to recap it before it happens. You might wish you could recap this one before it happened. I mean, no, it wasn't that bad, but Arkansas falls to the Baylor Bears by a score of 72 to 67. We are here to talk about it. And man, I tell you what, the two big two big takeaways. One, Jonas Adu can't get healthy fast enough because we need just a more physical guy that is available at least to play in the post. And just like a smart like pick and roll defender, a guy that knows how to switch, how to take angles, all that stuff, which he is. And that teams are gonna play zone against us until we prove that we can figure out how to make them not do that. Because Baylor threw a zone at us, and especially the first half, it was effective, man. Like our offense looked troubled, and mostly because we haven't shot the ball from the outside that well, and Baylor was willing to kind of dare us to do it a little bit.
Well, I mean, if you can't knock down threes and you don't have a dominant post player, it's going to be pretty difficult to make people get out of a zone.
Yeah, and here's the thing: like, it's going to be hard to beat really good teams, which is what Baylor is. Like you're talking about, right? I mean, I know they got beat down by Gonzaga. I think that was more of a one-off thing, but you're talking about, at least as of right now, a top 10 team in the country. I know the preseason rankings don't mean much, but and a team that's been good for a lot of years and has a great
They're going to
coach,
be good. I mean,
they're
he's a
going to
good
be good.
coach.
Yeah. So, can you beat some teams just being better athletes and stuff? Yeah, of course. Like in Arkansas beat a lot of those teams, but this is the kind of team where you're like, well, this is the kind of team you're going to have to beat if you want to really go somewhere. And they are going to have to figure out how to shoot the ball either a little bit better so teams can't play zone, or if teams do decide to get play zone, how they're going to attack that. Not having Jonas does make that more difficult. Like, I understand that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would say with this game, I mean, there's nothing, it's no big deal to lose this game. It's a neutral floor game, although a little bit of a home team, but I think they probably split the tickets up. So it was about 50-50, but shorter travel for them,
Yeah.
but also they are technically by the, however they do the rankings this early, they're better than us in the rankings. And it was a close game at the end, even though they kind of had our number all night. So you would say ultimately there's no shame in losing this game. As someone who's hypercritical, I would say the way they lost this game does potentially raise some concerns. Like I said, obviously still too early, too small of a sample size, all the caveats in there. I'm definitely nervous about a few things. Like one, I think it was smart of them to play zone. I was not impressed with our ability to combat it in real time. Immediately, you could see, like, I was like,
Yeah.
immediately, you're like, what are we doing? We're just going
Yeah.
to pass the ball back and forth for 17 seconds and then have one guy go one on one and try to force up a really difficult shot. And that was pretty much what we did almost the entire first half.
Yeah.
And then you're looking for, some halftime adjustments, and they did look better. Although, and I mean, to be fair to Calipari, like, you can only do so much in one halftime. I assume that they will work on some stuff,
Yeah.
and they definitely played better on offense in the second half.
They
But
got the ball to the right spots and stuff.
they
Yeah.
did it. They did get to the soft spots, but it was still, you could tell we couldn't make them pay with the three ball. And I would say my biggest concern, which I actually did identify even last game, is I'm a little bit concerned about our big men. Like they're all talented in their own way. Obviously, we haven't seen Adu at full strength yet, but even with Adu, if he comes in there and plays as good as he's capable at, like, we don't have a lot in the backup. Big Z is not a typical, like, he's not. I mean,
Mhm.
they tried to post him up a few times, and you can just see that's not really
Big,
his game.
Big Z is going to have monster games against certain kinds of teams.
Yes. That,
That's what he is. Yeah.
that's the thing is we will those guys are perfectly adequate. Brazil and Z, and especially if you throw in a do it, like, we will be great against certain teams. but there is a kind of team that is big man focused or just has an outstanding big man. Um, we're
Like
gonna,
Auburn, Jeremiah Broom when we play them. Yeah,
yeah. Or I mean, trying to think of like a particular, I mean, even last year Purdue. I mean, like, what would we do against a guy like that?
you're not going to see a lot of guys like that,
You're
but
not,
yeah,
but
yeah,
or that big dude from Duke, the big
yeah,
white dude,
yeah.
like whatever. Like you just get a really talented like big man that has post moves
Hmm.
and can like throw up a 14-foot jump shot and stuff. Big Z's gonna have trouble guarding that guy, and I'm afraid like if you get in foul trouble, we don't have a deep big man bench.
Hmm.
There could be some problems there. Like today, we needed a talented post player to,
What we needed to do to be able to play more than 10 minutes.
yeah,
He
that
played 5 minutes a half basically. I mean, and you could just tell by the way he's like running and stuff. Like he's not. It's not. He's not healthy yet.
Yeah, I mean, dude, we need like even Mitchell from
Yeah.
last year. We
Yeah.
like a guy that you can throw the ball to, and he's like got soft hands and a good passer, and knows
Mm-hmm.
knows where he wants that. I think that's the biggest problem with Big Z is, and Brazil's the same way. Brazil's wildly talented with athleticism and stuff, but this is like, and he'll make crazy plays on defense and offense sometimes, but he's rarely going to make the smart play. Like
Yeah.
he's rarely going to get the steal because he anticipated where the ball was going. He's going to get it because he's friggin' can jump out of the gym and he's really fast and athletic. And whereas someone like Mitchell from last year, he just had a good head for the game. He always knew when he was receiving the ball exactly like, okay, here's what I'm supposed to do. I can see where the threat's coming
Yeah.
from and I know how to beat this.
I think that is a do. Like I think you need to get him on the court. Like he's. I mean, and I get you don't want to do it prematurely. I'm not saying you should just roll him out there. I mean, like I'm not saying that, but um, I think if for some reason this is lingering and we don't get him, that is a big cause for concern because like we obviously need him.
Yeah, we need more physical post play,
Yeah, yeah.
no doubt. I will say, I mean, I guess on kind of a positive note, like if you watch this game, it was really ugly on Arkansas side, and I'm kind of shocked that we didn't lose by 20.
I know. Like, and one of the reasons we didn't is that it's two things. One, now there's certain things. I think this stuff will get cleaned up. I think this is like a bunch of guys that haven't played that much together. You know, have like the Kentucky guys that played together, but then you have these freshmen, and then you have these transfers, and uh, team defense is something that like gets better and better ideally because you know each other better and that kind of stuff, and offense as well. There were some glaring sort of like defensive mistakes where guys didn't fill the right gaps or didn't the help defense wasn't right and that kind of stuff. However, overall, our perimeter pressure is still very good. And I think that you see that we still like we get steals, we get people deep in the shot clock sometimes. Um, Wagner, Fland, Nelly Davis, they're playing good ball pressure defense. Sometimes you saw some guys with their hands down and that kind of stuff. They got to clean that kind of stuff up.
They missed some switches on pick and rolls.
Yeah, yeah,
Again,
yeah.
they got back cut on that
But
early.
that's all stuff that like if you want to play defense, you can clean up. And I will say that all of those guys, Adu Thiero, uh, those guys don't look unwilling to play defense, which means you can clean that up,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
No, I mean,
it's not a lack of effort.
well, I do. I mean, I was gonna say there just like anything, there's lots of ways you could look at this game if you want to be pessimistic or optimistic. I mean, you could say like I actually think if it wasn't for what Adu did in the first half
Mm-hmm.
and really for most of the game, but like he single-handedly when we just couldn't
Yeah,
score was just like, well, I guess I'll just go make a really hard shot.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And um if it wasn't for that, we might have lost by 20. You know,
No,
because
I
we
mean,
went through some lulls where it was like, holy crap, we can't
yeah,
get any break this offense down or
yeah. I mean,
defense down at
if you
all.
look at the stat, I mean, like so, he plays 31 minutes. Um, he went 10 of 15. He had 24 points, 2 assists, 6 rebounds. Like, I mean, he was the best player for Arkansas tonight for sure, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, he stemmed the tide when they were getting ahead by like 8 to 11 points there, and it looked like they were about to blow that to, it looked like, I mean, the whole first half was just them, it was slow. They weren't steamrolling us because again, our defense was, it's not like they were scoring easily. We did make a few mistakes and They did knock down their open threes when they got
Yeah.
them. But for the most part, our defense was still there. I mean, they didn't score a ton. I mean, you
72. Yeah.
I mean, you score in the upper 60s, that's a coin flip game.
Yeah.
Like you're like, I
Yeah.
don't know who won that one. Depends on how good our defense is. You'd like to see your score in the upper 70s, and then you feel like
Yeah.
you got a chance. But yeah, I mean, our defense was good enough to keep them from like just running away with it. But the first half was all just they're up by 3,
Yeah.
and now it's 7, and now it's 9, and now it's 13. And it had the feeling of a game that was going to end the first half down by 18 or
Yeah.
20. And with his effort almost single-handedly there for a few minutes, he at least like made it where they didn't just get 3 buckets in a row. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was making them score. It was 2 buckets for his one, and he kept it from being, getting 2 out of hand. And then we made a good run in the first part of the second half.
Yeah. And he was just bringing some intensity too. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
he was playing great defense, and
I mean, Boogie Fland actually played well. Like he didn't shoot great, but he finishes with 17 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds. I mean, you're gonna take that most nights.
mhm.
I mean, if you get 17 and 7 from Boogie, I mean, there's not a lot to complain about there.
No, I actually don't think the effort. The only disappointment was that they just didn't appear that they had worked on any kind of a zone. And I mean, it's really smart by Baylor. And like I said, they made some adjustments. You can tell Calipari was like, we have to get into the middle of that zone, like so somebody get in there. But that is one of those things where if you haven't been practicing exactly how to move offensively against a zone,
Which they haven't been, because I mean, he was saying like for like until just recently, they haven't had more than like 5 guys. They haven't even done like scrimmage. They don't even have guys to run stuff against. So it's kind of like not even surprising that they haven't done that much work against different defensive looks and stuff.
well, and those kind of things are difficult to implement on the fly. Some halftime adjustments are easier, are more effective than others. Like saying, "Hey, I need to teach you how to on this little black and white board how to break down this zone." Then going out there and physically doing it in the real world is a different thing. Versus where you're like, "Oh, here's what we're going to do. We're going to play with 2 big men." Because we think that'll neutralize, like, and then it's like, well, that just works because you're not asking guys to learn something that they haven't practiced. You know what I mean?
I think another thing you could take away from this that's probably surprising, we already talked about this beforehand, but is surprising and encouraging considering that you didn't have Jonas really. I mean, he played a handful of minutes, but we actually did out rebound them.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it, but
Yeah.
that is kind of surprising.
Yeah. So I like
Actually,
that.
I mean, it's not that surprising because they were in zone. I mean, zones are famously
Yeah.
a little bit difficult too.
You do have a 7-2 guy and a really bouncy 6'10" guy out there and stuff. Even though Fierro led us in rebounding. I mean, he had the most rebounds on the team. So, but also I don't know if you know, he can jump
Yeah,
a little bit.
I do think that was a bad matchup game style wise for Z because he really just seemed like he couldn't do much. I mean, because he's big, he still got some rebounds and he still affected some shots.
Yeah,
but
blocks and yeah.
But every time they tried to be like, okay, we need you to post up and draw a double, either get a flip shot or kick it out for an open shooter or a driver, he either couldn't make the shot if he got the shot, and when the double came, he struggled either making the right pass or accurately making the right pass in a way that didn't just make you end up passing the ball around the outside again.
Yeah, and I mean Baylor had like that one real physical post, but mostly they played kind of small. And
I felt blessed that they didn't go down to him more.
Yeah,
It felt like every time they went to him isolated, he just pounded it in. And I mean, it was in the second half. I was like, why aren't they going to that guy?
Do you know how this works though? Like, because I mean, you play post, I play post. I hate it with and I think the Z is probably like this too. When you have a guy guarding you that's like kind of like a lot smaller than you and he's smart, it's just annoying. Like, cause you want to go battle with another post guy, and when you got like a smaller guy and you or smaller guys around you and they're slappy at the ball and stuff, and I think that was like probably pretty disruptive for Z too. Like where you're just like the guards are all diving at you and stuff.
But the thing that you're describing right now is that you and I aren't good post players.
Right.
Like we're good depending on like the average person, but we're not we
Yeah.
don't have excellent moves. We don't have an excellent hands. We're not like we don't have amazing flip over the
Yeah.
shoulder hook shot or something like. And that's why a smaller guy who's smart and like a little strong can like be crafty and maybe just, steal the ball when it's down low at the perfect time. But like when you're a good big man, you punish little
Yeah.
guys when
Yeah.
they're on you. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm saying.
But that's not the kind of
Big
players he
Z's
is, though.
not a great back to the basket big
No,
man.
that's not who he is. No.
No.
Not yet. Anyway, I mean, he's 19 years old
If
or whatever.
if he goes up against a guy that's of similar speed and like similar size, I actually think that's his best. Like
Mm.
he'll be effective. It's not like you're gonna be very likely to block him, but he needs something a little bit more methodical. You can tell when you speed him up, um, or ask him to be the one that needs to like orchestrate the offense because he's got to watch for the double team, know where the soft spot is, know where the open guy is, make an accurate pass off the dribble. Like that's not what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And I understand that because like I'm the same thing. I'm more of a post player. I want the ball like moving towards the basket from a pass from like a pick and roll guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you put me in isolation, it's not like I can't do it, but like I'm not
Yeah.
great at it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm very likely to flip up something off kilter that's not going to go.
And he's, yeah, like I said, yeah, I don't know. I think he's like 19 years old or whatever. And yeah, he's playing against guys that are not bigger than him, but guys that are stronger than him and that kind of, and like, so, that's not even to say that he won't develop into a player that can do that stuff, but he's still young, like
I mean, honestly, he has many of the same limitations that Connor had. What is that his name? What's his name?
yeah, yeah. He moves a little better than Connor
No,
Vanover.
he's. I think he's way better than Connor, but he's similar problems.
Yeah.
They're just not as bad because he's much more fleet of foot. He's a better shooter,
Yeah.
and I mean, but it is the same kind of limitations with a really, really
Yeah.
long, skinny big man that
Yeah.
has kind of a hybrid and actually kind of wants to face the basket.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, well, I mean, I don't know if we have a ton more to say. I think that I wouldn't panic if I was you. I think that that's a good team. You got beat. It's a close game. Um, don't have likely your starting center, really. And you got a defense that we the two things that gotta happen is we gotta get Jonas healthy, and obviously we need to work on an offense against the zone, and we need to shoot the ball a little bit better than we've shot it from the perimeter. Not it doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to be like doesn't need to be like what we do. Like we just need to do it. We need to be we've shot I think 25% or something. We need to shoot 30%.
That's like again, if I was being positive, which I'm not inclined to do, but I would say I did feel like overall, I mean, you'd have to go break the game down play by play, but it felt to me like there was several times where like somebody put their head in, got into the teeth of the defense down low, flipped something up, and I'm talking about on both sides. And I felt like a lot more of their shots that were like contested, could have gone either way, kind of rolled around the rim. A lot of theirs dropped in, and we had many, many that came out, and they were like really close, almost there. And the same thing on the threes, like now maybe we're terrible 3-point shooting team, but like I feel like some of those could have gone down. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm talking about the open ones. Like
Yeah.
got some open corner threes, didn't make like any of them hardly.
Yeah.
And so and it was a freaking 5-point game. So
Yeah.
like I did feel like as bad as that was, you're just a couple of balls going like one
Or how
three
about that one time
here.
when you play great defense, the ball gets loose, and then they end up with it, and they throw it to a guy for a dunk, and you're just like,
Yeah.
you don't deserve 2
Where
points off of that.
you almost get a run out. Instead, the ball gets tipped, and then there's no one down there to play defense.
Yeah.
And he gets a dunk. Yeah, I mean, there was lots of stuff like that where it felt like I said, one more three goes down, and one of those little layups that rolls around the rim goes down. It's like it's a tie. I mean, definitely not to despair. I see some concerns with the team. I mean, I think the depth is a problem, and like injuries, I'm scared of because we need all these guys. But the guards and I mean, they're great still. I mean, I think they'll be able to. I think because I think people will have a zone plan for us. I'm not saying teams that have like a really strong man defense identity are going to just play all zone, but it would not shock me if every team until we prove it
throws a little zone
practices a zone defense and throws it out there from time to time. And I think those guards though are good enough that with a little bit of practice, I mean, like I said, I wish they would have done it before, anticipated that because, but I think they'll be able to break that down.
Even just like seeing it over and over again, like eventually you're gonna these guys are basketball players, like you're gonna like, oh, you play zone. We've seen it before. We've figured out we kind of know what we want to do against it, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, if they realize like our limitation is that we don't shoot a high percentage, especially like again, we've talked about this before, but there is a difference between I'll bet these guys shoot a higher percentage like off the dribble 3-point shooting than there's something weird about the spacing of a zone where you catch the ball out of rhythm
Yeah,
and it's almost you're too wide open sometimes. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And it's just like not how you're used to shooting the ball. But there's other ways to break down a zone that those guys are infinitely capable of doing without shooting threes.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
So,
absolutely. Well, all right, guys. Well, we'll leave it there. Arkansas is 1-1 on the season. Got a game coming up Wednesday against Troy, and so we'll be back at some point to recap that bad boy.
all right. Thanks, guys.
All right, see you guys.